I'm half a dragon, you know. What's the other half? Well, it's more dragon. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Just in Time Worlds with your host, Marie Mullaney. Today, I want to talk to you about hybrid monsters as voted on by the community of this channel. So, from the Sphinx to the winged cat to the venerable owlbear, hybridizing monsters is a tradition going back to mythology. But what does that type of fantasy monster where you hybridize different animals offer you as a fantasy world builder? That is the topic of today's discussion. If you have not yet done so, please do hit the subscribe button. If you'd like to be part of the community of world builders, join my Discord. If you like what I do here, do check out my book or check out my Ko-fi page. And let's get cracking with hybrid animals. So the first type of hybridization that I want to talk about is when you take two animals and you smoosh them together. The best example of this is Avatar: The Last Airbender, where almost every animal is a smooshing together of other animals, such as a polar dog or the turtle ducks or a lion turtle. Now, what does it do for the world of Avatar: The Last Airbender that every animal is basically a hybrid? Well, the first and most important thing is that it reminds everybody who consumes the media that this is not our world. This is a different world where the animals are unique and different. This is especially so because everybody in Avatar: The Last Airbender treats these animals as though they are completely normal and natural part of the world. Now, Avatar doesn't ever go into exactly why animals are this way, and this has given rise to two seriously interesting fan theories that I thought worth exploring in terms of avenues you can use in this hybridization of animals. The first fan theory from Atla is apocalypse. There was some kind of magical apocalypse that caused animals to be smooshed together and created these hybrid forms of animals. This is a model that Mercedes Lackey leans into in her world of Valdemar, where you have the plague lands where magic has gone haywire because of a battle that two mages had back in antiquity. And animals that get caught in these magical circles get turned into hybrid forms of each other and basically can be transformed either mentally or physically into weird and wonderful creatures, including hybridization of one or more animals. What does this give you as a world builder? It allows you to show that bad things happened here. So it allows you to call back and to demonstrate to people consuming your world that there has been an apocalypse. It also shows that magic can be dangerous. It shows you the inherent risks that people take in playing with these very forces of creation. And it illustrates the power of uncontrolled magic and why that is dangerous to people who just plunge in and use magic without understanding it. That's what apocalypse offers you in terms of hybrid animals. There's another fan theory from Atla, and that is that the spirits caused it. This fan theory goes, if a spirit inhabits the body of an animal, they cause hybridization in that animal because the spirit doesn't entirely match the body it is now inhabiting. Now, what this allows you to show if you lean into such a model is that not all spirits are benign. Maybe a spirit is an evil spirit and it causes this hybridization on purpose. It also shows the direct impact of the spiritual world on the physical one and allows you to point back at the spiritual world without being heavy-handed in your world building. And it makes the spiritual world of your world more real. It makes it have a real impact on the physical observable world, which tells your reader that the spiritual world in your world is a real place. So those are two great things that hybridizing animals can give you. But how do you actually hybridize an animal? Well, you smoosh things together. So from the polar dog to the owl bear of D&D to the lamassu or the absolutely amazing winged cat, and oh man, I want a winged cat so badly. Or the Pegasus, quite often putting wings on a normal creature is enough to hybridize it. Or the Manticore, which is a smooshing together of everything evil and let's add poison because why not? To the turtle ducks that Zuko feeds in Avatar The Last Airbender. Since this is generally magic that kind of causes this hybridization, you can go nuts. Take the bits that you like from certain animals and combine it with other animals, and Bob's your uncle, you have a hybrid. Give this video a like if you enjoyed those fan theories from Atla, and let's talk about spiritual aspects where we crossbreed with humanoids. There is nothing that illustrates this better than the Greek gods, specifically Zeus. Zeus would bang anything. He made the Minotaur by banging a woman while he was in bull form. I don't know how that worked either, but he did. What does it offer you to hybridize humans or elves or dwarves or anything else humanoid with animals in this way? Well, first it shows the power again of the spirit world, or the gods in this case, which comes down to the same thing. So it immediately shows the people who are interacting with your world that the gods are real or the spiritual world is real, because they can bang a chick or be banged by a guy and the net end result is a hybridized creature. That's clearly a godly or spiritual thing. It can also be used to explain some really incongruous things about the natural world. Why would a lion have a scorpion tail? Because the gods made it so. It also allows you to spawn whole new species, because you could hybridize a goat with an elf and come up with a satyr, or you could hybridize a snake with a dwarf and you could come up with snake people. These creatures can also be the offspring of fairies and humanoids. Or it could be fairy mischief that caused an animal to be fertile with humans. And that also allows you to bring in an element of fairies into your world, and thus to show the consumers of your world that fairies are real in your world and this is how they interact with the world. It could also be that all this talk of spirits and whatnot, it's actually just an origin story. Maybe the creatures are actually natural creatures. So a good example of this comes from Raymond, Feist and Janny Wurts' Empire of Turani, where they have centaur-like creatures. They have a horse's body and what looks like a man's torso. But in fact, they are naturally evolved creatures on the world of Kelowon. The world of Kelowon is a 6-limbed world. So everything that naturally evolved on this world has got 6 limbs, and that includes the centaurs, which is why they have the horse's, body and then the additional limbs. And they evolved on Kelowon. But because of the way they look, when humans migrated to Kelowon, they looked at centaurs and went, oh, they're an offspring of a man and a horse, which obviously they're not, but they do look like it. So you could have such a case where there was natural evolution, but there's an origin story that speaks to spirits. What this allows you to do is to have alien creatures, creatures with a completely unusual reason for existing, that are nonetheless on your world and therefore evoke interest from your reader of where did they actually come from, especially if nothing else in your world speaks to spirits being real. Like this whole story of the gods bonking a horse and creating the horse race, that doesn't sound right to your reader. It doesn't sound in keeping with everything they observe about the world. And yet, centaurs are a reality in your world. So where do they come from? Did aliens import them? Were they a case of magic gone wrong? What's the story there? So you could really lean into that and play with that concept of there's this origin story that might not be true because actually they're a naturally evolved creature or a magically evolved creature. Speaking of magically evolved creatures, Mercedes Lackey does this with griffins. So griffins are a created race. The mage Uthro created them as creatures by combining different elements, but he created them thousands of years in the past, and now they are a natural part of the world. But because they are a magically created race, not a evolutioned race, they aren't as robust. There are strange things that can go wrong with a griffin because they're effectively glued together from different species. And so they have to have people who look after them and ensure that their feathers don't set alight and that do things for them that they can't do for themselves, because despite the fact that they can talk, they don't have hands, they have claws. So they can't do things that a human would be able to do because their hands can't manipulate tools. And that I thought was a very interesting take on what would happen if you magically create an advanced race, but it's not a process of evolution where things like their hands develop for tool use or anything like that. They're just poofed into intelligent existence, and now they need help doing things that a human would take as a matter of course. So you make the magical race, they establish themselves as a race, there are many of them, but they can't exist without others to help them in order to do things that humans would just take for granted. Of course, that is not to say that nature can't evolve these things. The platypus exists. And that thing looks like you took multiple different animals and smooshed it together and it totally evolved naturally. So honestly, it could just be a creature that evolved naturally to look like that. And if you like comparing a griffin to a platypus, give this video a thumbs up. So what does all this give you? Hybridization of animals allows you to make incredible creatures, both as monsters and as intelligent races. You can provide fun, fantastical opponents for your main characters to fight. You can give origin stories that talk to the reality of your spiritual world. You can show off your magic. And it gives you a clear way to indicate to everybody who is interacting with your world that this is not Earth. And that is my thoughts on hybrid monsters and how to use them in fantasy. If you like this video, be sure to check out my video on fauna and flora, hit the thumbs up button, and I will see you soon for another one.